Lennie James. Maggie Grace. Alexa Nisenson. Rubén Blades. Karen David. And we also have executive producers, writers, and showrunners, Andrew Chambliss. As well as Ian Goldberg. Okay, thank you all so much for being here with us today. For those of you that don't know, they're currently finishing up filming for season 5 right here in Austin, Texas. And so I know you guys have been very busy, but we're very pleased to have you here for this hometown screening. I'd like to start with Andrew and Ian. Could you talk a little bit about how the show started in Los Angeles and then went to Mexico? At what point in the conversation was Texas brought up as a potential filming destination, and how did you know it was right?
I mean, I think the thing that brought us to Texas was when we were in the early stages of planning season 4. We knew thematically it was going to be a season about people who were isolated and lonely coming together and starting to build community. And as we were talking about that, a lot of themes were emerging that felt kind of Western, and it lent to the way we shot the show. It very much harkens back to, Sergio Leone, spaghetti Westerns, and we really wanted to capture that feel. And when we came on a location scout to Texas and drove around, we just were kind of blown away by the landscape, and particularly Austin, how you can drive half an hour in any direction, and it feels like you're in a different part of Texas, and that is so kind of important to the storytelling of the show because, as these guys will tell you, they spend a lot of time outside.
And there were a lot of selling points to Austin. There were some other places in Texas that were great as well, but I think the final selling point that really nailed it home was Round Rock Baseball Stadium, Dell Diamond. We walked in and we saw that, and it was so amazing. We could not believe it, and we looked at it and said, how are we going to make this look like the apocalypse? And as a credit to our production designer, Bernardo Trujillo, who's a genius, he managed to do it in a very short amount of time.
5 weeks, I think. But I mean, when he walked into it for the first time, I think he almost had a heart attack. But it was amazing, and it really felt like it was this real world that people lived in. And I mean, we saw it when it was the baseball stadium and the team was practicing, and then we came back 6 weeks later, and it was the apocalypse.
And for the two of you, can you talk a little bit about the process of traveling from the writer's room to execution of the show and how you kind of balance that responsibility with each other?
Sure. I mean, one of the exciting things that we get to do on this show is we tell an epic story, and each episode in its way is like its own movie. And we're on the road all the time. We're exploring these incredible locations in Austin, and it is a challenge from a production standpoint. We have a really amazing crew, and we send our writers to staff to cover the individual episodes. We have an incredible producing director, Michael Satrazemis. So we have just a lot of great people to help accomplish these somewhat insane, huge dreams of ours that come through in these episodes. So it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of work, and it's a great group to do it with.
The show is a very fun balance of comedy and drama, and it's really interesting today to watch it with a live audience and not at home because you can hear the collective laughs. Is that intentional, and how do you bring your cast into part of that process? Do you guys have freedom to kind of add a little bit to jokes, or how do you know when you're getting serious or it's okay to be funny?
I mean, tonally, we very much want, this is a bleak world we're exploring, and we want to have fun in it. And I think one of the things that comes out when people are trying to survive and people are under high pressure situations is humor as a way to kind of burn off steam. And it was important to have that element to the show. And, I mean, everyone sitting up here is able to, I think, deliver humor in kind of their own ways. And I'd say everyone is such a good sport about it. We've done crazy things. I mean, we asked Lennie to sit on a toilet, which maybe is one of our favorite things we did last season. But then we're also always surprised by these little moments that the cast finds that we didn't necessarily intend to be funny, or we didn't write that way, or they add a little bit of extra to something, and it just brings some new life to that moment.
This seems like a bit of a team sport for the cast. You all have a lot of opportunity to have scenes as a group, as well as certain scenes with each other. How do you work with one another to talk about your character trajectories, and how do you kind of spend time with each other both on and off the set?
When I first came, being the newbie to this world, hi everyone. I was like the little kid going to first day of school. I was really excited and really nervous because I was like, oh no, I hope everyone likes me. And my first day on set was with Lennie, lovely Lennie, and Alicia, and I only had a few days to bond with the character because it all kind of happened so wonderfully fast, and so it was a wonderful challenge in a good way, and overwhelming in a lovely way too. And I just kind of gave Lennie and Alicia a heads up that there would be many brain farts happening, and it was very much like skating for the first time on ice and just finding my ground, because this was the first time joining an established show as a series regular that has set the tone and the pace. And I was so excited to get involved and kind of jump in the deep end, and everyone was really, really lovely. They still are. I think they still like me.
I think we have such a short space of time to do the episodes that our main effort is getting as much as we can on camera. We've got stunts, we've got location changes. I mean, we really are like a circus. We put it up one day, take it down, and go to another location after virtually every day of filming. So a lot of our effort is about getting to the points where the camera's rolling and we're putting stuff down, and that's a huge amount of effort. And the good thing is that it's a funny. I didn't actually realize how funny the episode was until I watched it with you lot, to be absolutely honest. So you changed that for me. Thank you very much. But yeah, a lot of our effort goes into the fact that we've got so much to do. In fact, Mikey, who the boys were just talking about, who's our kind of producer director, he says about this show that it's the show that almost always never gets made, and that's pretty much how it works. So a lot of when Karen joined, she'll tell you she had to hit the ground running. You don't get a huge amount of time to ease your way in. Because it's a big production that we squeeze into a short space of time.
It's a 15-day action movie that we shove into 8 days.
And Maggie, your character in season 4 particularly is in a unique position where you really kind of introduce some of the other characters to the audience. So do you approach getting ready for that character just a little bit differently, since there's a bit of a responsibility to kind of liaising between the show and the audience?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of liaising Al does this season, which I think are some of the aspects I'm most excited about. I mean, there's a lot that I cherish and am excited about with her, and just how active and capable she is. But I think getting to introduce some of those new characters and even sometimes new worlds, that's really exciting and a special thing to get to do.
And Alexa, you have so many mentors here with the cast and the crew. And this is now your second season with the show.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that you've been able to learn as an actress throughout this experience?
Well, I have gotten to work with such amazing people. I think it's really cool that we get to do different pairings, and we also get to work as a group a lot. But I've just learned so much about in life. I look up to everyone in life and in work and acting, and it's super special. And I actually really like hanging out with adults too, so I think it's really fun.
She is one, basically.
Yeah, I love all these guys, and they're just so amazing, and I look up to them so much, literally in every way possible. Yeah.
It's wonderful.
We're so lucky with this one, and we all know it, and we all think it every day.
She's the grown-up on the set.
Really is the
I just
most
want to say,
mature.
she's the grown-up on the set. We go to her for advice.
Well, I learned from you guys. So.
And Rubén, you're a veteran of the show, and so welcome back to season 5.
Thank you.
And welcome back to Texas. You're no stranger to Texas either. Can you talk a little bit about how you've seen the show change over the duration of time that you've been working with it?
Well, I mean, Salazar went from being a barber now to being a different man altogether, not just in terms of the profession. I mean, we have changed not locations, but also the characters have evolved. And it's an interesting situation now for him, for the character Salazar, because the most important thing, I believe, was to determine why he wanted to stay alive. He lost his wife and he lost his daughter, Griselda and Ofelia. So, why is he still around? I think the character ended up understanding that there must be some purpose for him being spared. And I think, and it's an interesting conclusion, because he reached that conclusion of helping other people at the same time that conclusion was being arrived at in the group, the main group. So now the question is, how does he integrate to the new group, and how he can make he's not all the way a pacifist, Salazar. So how does he integrate his effort to trying to help people, which he's doing, with Skid Mark, let's not forget Skid Mark, and the rest of the group. So that's going to be a really interesting dynamic there.
You've got 9 lives.
I'm getting Skid Mark hairs out of here. My shirt.
Can anyone here talk a little bit about what it takes to come here to what is arguably a very vibrant and alive city and turn it into the apocalypse? You guys find all of these gems of locations, and can you talk a little bit about just the amount of manual labor that goes into getting these places prepared for this kind of visual?
It's huge, and as the guys were saying, Bernardo and his team, who are kind of set designers, they're there days, weeks before we even arrive. They know what they've got to, and they've got to prepare it and get it ready. We shot on, I'm just seeing Peggy Shots here, who's a local Austin actress who's joined our show. And when she joins, she's fantastic, by the way. This city should be proud. And when she joins, the work we had to do on the location that we were shooting, how much can I say? Maybe
It's pretty incredible. It feels like it's the apocalypse, and that's pretty much all we can say. But
that's pretty much all we can say. But the job done. But also we are lucky because the people we have doing those jobs enjoy doing those jobs. They come to work excited. They come to work enjoying the challenge. and rising to it time after time. And there really have been a number of locations that we've walked on, and I've just gone, is this us? Or do we find it? Like, I mean, the job that they do is incredible, and it's seamless, and they do it over and over and over again, and they keep on, impressing us as much as they must be impressing the fans.
No, and it's like the first day of prep on any episode, we have a concept meeting, and it's when the crew kind of reads the script with us, and we talk about what we're thinking and ask questions. And after every one of those meetings, there's usually a sense of like panic of like, oh my God, how are we going to do this in 8 days? And then, yeah, our crew is amazing, and they'll all kind of go off to the various departments and then come back and be like, here's what we can do, here's what we can do. And it really is incredible to see these worlds that get created every 8 days. And, I mean, Ian and I, like, we have meetings where we talk about things we're thinking about coming up, and then Logan, our locations manager, will go out and just send us tons of pictures, and he'll even send stuff that he just thinks is cool, and then we'll end up integrating that into the story.
And even beyond the locations, you look at the wardrobe in the show, that has to be weathered and apocalypse-ized. It has to be aged and broken down, and our makeup department has to take all these beautiful people and grime them up and make them look like they've been struggling in the apocalypse. And so it really goes from every department, and every episode is a brand new, as Maggie said, 15-day movie in 8 days.
It really feels like this strangely well-kept secret that, there's such an incredible talent pool here in Austin. Like, the level of skill with the crew and the work ethic is humbling and amazing, because even when we're sleep deprived, some of these guys got up at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. to get out there, and it's just, we feel very lucky to shoot in Austin. I mean, it's a special town.
Yeah. I mean, the radiated walkers, they're at it for 4 hours before we even arrive. So, I mean, it's the job that's done, behind the scenes in order to get us to the starting line. It's just incredible.
I've spied a couple of our folks in the audience today that might play walkers or other backgrounds.
Yeah, raise your hand if you're a walker. Anyone? Here we go.
Got two up front here. Yeah, it's one of the hardest jobs.
It's a very funny thing, because a lot of the times the walkers are already made up as walkers by the time we meet them. So every time you meet them, you have to go, who's that under there? And then you'll see them, when they're finished at the end of the day, or, just walking around Austin, and they'll go, hi, Lennie, and you'll go, hi? Hey?
Got a nude, tumor covering half his face. It's like, it's Justin.
It's Justin.
Like, oh, hey, sorry. Didn't recognize you.
And how do you prepare the walkers? Can you tell us a little bit about what it takes to make a zombie?
Well, there's basically like 3 grades of walkers. There are the hero walkers, who are the ones that are like up close on camera, like the nuclear walkers that we saw in today's episode. Then there are mid-ground walkers that are wearing kind of rubber masks that get pulled over, and then background that are just kind of dirtied up. And it's always a balance about trying to get the right amount. And
normally there's some kind of specialty walker within each episode that we try and give its own identity. In 502, which you just watched, we had nuclear walkers, which is, it's something that we try and give them their own identity, and also it's, we couldn't execute them without the great work of K&B and Greg Nicotero's company. That we have an amazing support staff that helps make all that possible.
So that's interesting. You're talking about giving your walkers identities, and one of the things that I was also thinking about as I've been watching the show is the attention to opportunity for inclusivity. There's a lot of diversity in your cast, and there's a character in a wheelchair as well. Can you talk a little bit about the intention with that?
Yeah, I think for us, kind of our viewpoint is when it's the apocalypse and the stakes are life and death, quite literally from moment to moment, all the kind of barriers that can keep people separated in society today just kind of melt away, and everyone sees each other for the humans that they are. And it's very important to kind of represent as many different viewpoints within that as we can. And like with the character of Wendell, played by Chill Mitchell, who is amazing and hilarious, for that character, it was very important to show someone who was perhaps differently abled than most of the other people in the apocalypse, but showed just how good he was at surviving, and kind of use it as a message to say anyone could survive in this world.
Someone asked us that question earlier, and I just wanted to say that this genre has always been inclusive. This genre has always been diverse before we were using diverse as the word that we were now using. And we are just carrying on that tradition, and we're in a position where it's easy because it's all gone before us, right back to Night of the Living Dead, and it's always been inclusive, and we're just carrying on the tradition.
And it makes sense that if you're from a community that frankly has to deal with a lot of every single day, you develop a really incredible skill set and a scrappiness and a solution-oriented, take on the world that someone that's had things handed to them wouldn't have. So it does make more sense that, you'd be particularly able to handle society changing with those skills.
Speaking of being particularly able, the ladies on this show can hold their own, right? Yes, exactly. I mean, talking about doing an action movie every 2 weeks, the ladies do a lot of the heavy lifting in that department. Can you talk about the physical demands of the show and how you kind of balance because there's also the extremes with the emotions that you're dealing with your characters, and you're also just having to save your life.
I think back to what you said earlier, it really feels like a team sport, and we're so grateful for that. And we've got, Jack and James heading up our stunt team that we trust, to the ends of the earth.
Yeah,
So,
and we have amazing stunt doubles that help us out with everything, but we do try our best to kind of do what we can ourselves. But yeah, we have some amazing help.
When I first came onto the show, I felt like everyone was giving me tips, about everything. And I remember Lennie telling me, he said, "Ooh, Karen," he said, "this is not for the faint-hearted, And I was like, no, I've gone back to the gym. I'm doing all of that. I'm like, I'm running on the treadmill. He's like, good. And then everyone warned me about the weather as it gets hotter. Because even though I may be brown, guys, I am an English girl at heart. And there's English rose here in the sense where we're not used to this, humidity, and it's stuff that my skin loves it, by the way. Very happy about that. But I got notes and tidbits from all of these guys, and everyone just brings out the best in each other. And I, especially being new to the show, I appreciated that so much, because everyone's just there to lift you and support you. And if you have any questions or confused or whatnot, who better to ask than your clan here?
So now that you are getting close to wrapping up your second season here in Texas, do you still find yourselves, both the actors and the writers, kind of exploring the area, the culture, the geography to kind of inform how you portray these characters or how you write the show?
Absolutely, and that's what's exciting is we thought by the end of season 4, we've explored a lot of Austin. What are we going to do now? As you'll see in season 5, there was so much more to explore, and there's a couple of locations this season that are just dynamite. They're really, watch the next episode. There's a particularly exciting one there. But I think Austin is an endless treasure trove of possibility. It's a great place to work.
Sometimes as locals, we can spot the little nods, like there's an episode with bluebonnets, or there's a character that's a craft beer brewer, So how do you know when you found something where you're like, that needs to be in the show?
I mean, I think it just kind of seeps in from osmosis. Like season 4, there was a grackle that was a plot point, and that was from, I'd come down here for a couple months at the beginning of the season, and they woke me up like every morning. So it just stuck in the back of my head, and then it ended up in a script. So.
I'd love to open it up to some audience questions if we have any. So just try to be loud so I can repeat your question, and then we'll go to it.
This is for Rubén. I was wondering, that we finally saw you, that Victor shot you in the head, and somehow you don't have any scars on maybe. What's up with that?
Scar? Yeah, there is a scar. The thing is, maybe it's not going. First of all, Salazar has great skin. It's that Latin thing. Oh, that's my ex phone. I think that what happened. First of all, the caliber of the gun, it wasn't like a 45. If it had been like a 45 or a Magnum, I would probably be talking through a hand puppet. So it was a small caliber. That's one. The other thing is, the closer you are, the less damage the bullet will do. I mean, if you let the bullet really pick up, you would really have a more of an impact. And the third thing is that it's been a while, and there is a scar. The thing is, maybe it's not that obvious that people maybe expect me to be talking this way, but there is a scar. There is a scar there. And I have 9 lives. I have
9 lives.
And we will see a hint of a little bit more damage that
Yes.
Salazar sustained
Oh, yeah.
in an upcoming
You will
episode.
see something
yeah.
later on. Yeah, sorry.
Yes, they're in the middle. Sorry, can you speak up just a little bit? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What?
Was his position as a barber determined by your last name, Blade?
Oh, you're a smart whippersnapper, aren't you? No, you know what? It's a really interesting question. Why would Salazar be a barber? Okay, and this is where the thing comes in, where I create my own background story. Because I didn't consult with the writers originally. It was an odd thing. The guy escapes Salvador, and hides in plain sight within the Salvadorian community. But he was always an intelligence guy. He was always involved in intelligence operations. Where can you go and pick up information better than in a barbershop? While you're cutting somebody's hair, they're talking, and he's just picking up stuff. So he never ceased to be an intelligence officer. And the barbershop is like the common ground, the park of a community. Everybody, young, old, everybody needs a haircut. So everybody goes, and people talk in the barbershop. And it's not unusual for the barber to be asking questions while he cuts. So, that was a smart, Salazar is always looking for, intelligence. He knows that intelligence is the key for survival also. But that's a very good question. Thank you.
Yes, right over here. I think the question is about episode 1 and some explanations that might come later on in the season regarding to the helicopter scene. The symbol.
Yes.
I think it would be very disappointing if we didn't follow up on
Yeah. Keep watching.
Yes, over here.
So I have to ask Maggie, do you have a flashback of the airplane crash?
Completely.
Lennie, I love Jericho. So, Jericho fans. So, I know you filmed a lot of shows in between Jericho and Fear the Walking Dead, but what has the experience been like filming two post-apocalyptic shows and how do they differ for you?
Yes, the question was about filming two very popular shows and how they differ for him.
Post-apocalyptic. It's weird. I didn't think Jericho was a post-apocalyptic show until I was deep into it. And they're two very different guys. I mean, I can only kind of approach it as to who were the two guys that I was playing, and other than they vaguely look like each other and about the same height, they didn't have a huge amount more kind of in common. I mean, Robert Hawkins came with a certain set of skills, and Morgan has developed his because he's had to. But it's weird. I mean, I think when we did Jericho, it was probably before its time, and it didn't last because of that. And then a couple of years later, every show seemed to be post-apocalyptic in one shape or another. So I'm sad that Jericho finished the way that it did, but I'm glad that it gave birth to all of the others, including this one, and that I got the chance to do it. But Sherry, who is part of was the boss really, of our casting, is here, and she cast me in Jericho, and she cast me in this one, so she has no taste.
You have an eagle eye for all of your collaborators in the audience.
Yeah, I mean, our casting people do an amazing job because, like we say with Karen and everybody that they bring in, they're doing it, they're having to do it over and over and over again, and sometimes that goes unnoticed, and it really shouldn't. Our great cast that just keep coming on this show and on Walking Dead, bringing in Samantha Morton, bringing in, the other actors that you're going to see later on in this season that I can't, they're doing it all the time, going to, we got a guy who comes in this season, and his audition and coming on to being very careful, but him coming on to this is his first job out of school, and his first time on screen in any form, and he was so green that Sherry had to get him an agent to do his deal so that he could come and do the job.
And I mean, he literally asked us if he could have the following weekend off to go home for his graduation.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's that.
And they found him, and they found him because they go out and look for him. They don't. It's not just that they land on their lap. They're going to, to schools, and they're going to find people, and they're bringing them in, and they're finding the right people, the best people. And it's a testament to the fact that the longevity of both shows is a lot of it is down to our, the casting. And
Sharon
it's a
and
big deal.
Gohar here as well. Hi.
Hi, Sharon and
Angels. Guys, you're looking, and Sherry too. Salt of the Earth casting directors right there. They just bring the best out of you in your meetings. I love you guys.
Do we have any other questions? Yes.
So we can see that Morgan was pretty upset about losing the stick.
Do you know what? I didn't realize until it was gone what a big deal this. I mean, I did kind of in my head, but I didn't know how to stand after the stick had gone. So much of how Morgan operates in the world is because he's got a stick in one hand or the other, and it really threw me. And I was constantly on the phone to the guys going, when do I get my stick back?
That was the ongoing joke.
And
I felt so guilty every time. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm taking his stick away.
And I do think we took you out to lunch to break you the news. That we were
They
taking
took me
the
out to
stick
lunch.
away.
It was like, it's been a trip, I have to say. And through the season, they keep giving me weapons. I go, no, it's not the stick, it's not the babe, I can't have it. Yeah, it's a big deal. What would I like his weapon to be? Another stick.
It's like Linus
Please?
with his blanket and Charlie, but it's the same thing. Momo and his stick.
Say again?
Do you have the stick at home?
Yes, I do.
It probably sits He sleeps next to it.
You know what it reminds me
When
of?
I
You know
can.
those Pocky treat sticks? It's like that. Those are the Morgan sticks. The Pocky sticks. They're yummy.
I don't know what that means.
I'll bring you a box.
Do you have yes in the back there?
Well, in addition to Sharon and Gohar, who are our casting directors out of LA, we have a local casting office, Lisa May Finn Cannon and her associates, who are fantastic. And so when we write the roles and we know that we need to cast them locally, we will write up audition sides and description of the roles that we'll send to Lisa May and her team. And from there, they just assemble submissions from the agents, and we watch the tapes.
Yeah, and especially this season, there have been a lot of roles that, particularly like as we get deeper into the season and we're in a time crunch, where we've gone back and said, hey, who did we read for this role? Like even season 4, and particularly with like the local castings, there's just been a lot of really great faces who've stuck in our head who we've kind of gone back to. So yeah, I'd say if you audition and you don't hear anything, it could get a surprise, in the future. Yeah.
Sometimes we'll do second reads. Yeah. It depends on the role.
It depends on the role and how much time we have, or if, and I think Sharon and Gohar are great about this. They'll ask like, well, what is it that you didn't quite see? Like, let's bring them back in, and maybe if we give them the notes, and oftentimes then we get someone like, yes, that's it. We just didn't see it the first time.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday, Alexa.
13 years old.
Thank you,
Officially a
guys.
teenager.
Oh, thank you. Is it your birthday? Oh, happy early birthday.
Happy birthday.
Well, I can't say too much. But I
Just
do
to
think
repeat really quickly, the comment was about the dynamic between Charlie and Alicia. So if Alexa could tell us a little bit about that.
I can't say too much, but I will say that Charlie and Alicia will always have a very special bond after what they've been through, and I think that they'll always have that no matter what. That's all I can say.
And I'd say that it's something that's very kind of important to us, that relationship, because it did come so full circle last year, even when we were kind of at the beginning of the season and working with Joe Katsaris, who's our costume designer. We made an intentional choice that even Charlie's wardrobe is kind of evocative of Alicia, because she is someone who she holds kind of in such high esteem.
Yeah, I do think Charlie will always look up to Alicia and aspire to be like her. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's so sweet.
So just to wrap things up here, because I do believe we're running out of time, we've kind of alluded to season 5, but are there any themes that you guys are excited about, or do you have any words of advice for our audience here as we kind of gear up to watch the rest of the season?
Well, advice would be to watch every episode, please. And no, I mean, thematically, it's a season about redemption. These are all characters who have been brought together with things they have to make up for in their past, and they're choosing benevolence and going out in the world and helping people. And we're already seeing in these first 2 episodes.
And I think there's a line that Logan said in the premiere. He said, you spent so much time helping other people, it looks like you're going to have to help yourselves. And I'd say that thematically is a very important line for the season.
Well, thank you so much to everyone for participating today. Thank you.
Thank you.